Society has sold you a very specific dream. You are told from a young age to sit still, get good grades, secure a safe job, buy a nice house in the suburbs, and put a little bit away for retirement. You follow the rules perfectly, expecting that one day you'll cross a magical finish line into financial freedom. But look around. People are working harder than ever, commuting longer hours, and earning higher salaries. Yet they are stressed, drowning in bills, and terrified of the next economic downturn. The brutal truth is that the traditional path doesn't lead to wealth. It leads to the middle class. And the middle class is not a stepping stone to the top. It is a highly engineered, comfortable trap designed to keep you producing value for everybody else. Today, we are stripping away the illusions. We are going to break down the exact psychological and financial traps that keep smart, hardworking people stuck in the middle, and what you absolutely must change if you want to break out. Welcome to Orionix, the place where future billionaires come to get inspired. Number 1. They trade their finite time for a capped salary. The middle class operates on a linear equation. Time equals money. You give a company 40 hours of your life, and they give you a fixed paycheck. But here is the massive flaw in that math, okay? You only have 24 hours in a day. Even if you get promoted, even if you become a highly paid manager, you are still trading a non-renewable resource for a currency that the government prints endlessly. The people who escape this trap stop selling their time and start selling value. They decouple their earning ability from the clock. They build systems, they write code, they create media, or they acquire assets that generate revenue while they are fast asleep. As long as your physical presence is required for you to make money, you will always have a hard ceiling over your head. Number 2. They upgrade their lifestyle the second their income increases. This is the silent killer of the middle class. It is called lifestyle inflation. You get a 10% raise at work, and what do? You immediately go out and lease a nicer car. You get a year-end bonus, and you instantly upgrade to a bigger apartment. You are making more money, sure, but your baseline expenses are rising at the exact same speed. You see, the middle class confuses acting rich with being rich. They prioritize the appearance of wealth over the accumulation of capital. The truly wealthy live far below their means during their wealth-building years. When their income increases, they don't just buy a new liability, they buy a new asset. They keep their cost of living flat and use the surplus to buy their freedom. Number 3. They try to save their way to wealth. Look, budgeting is important, and saving is a great first step, but the middle class treats the savings account like it is the ultimate destination. They put their cash in a traditional bank, earning a fraction of a percent in interest, and they feel responsible. But here is the reality of the modern economy. Inflation is a quiet, aggressive tax on your cash. If your money is just sitting in a bank, it is mathematically guaranteed to lose its purchasing power every single year. You cannot shrink your way to wealth, and you definitely cannot save your way to millions. The wealthy know that cash is simply temporary ammunition. They hold it just long enough to deploy it into assets that outpace inflation, like real estate, equities, or private businesses. Number 4. They completely misunderstand how the tax system works. The middle class is the most heavily taxed demographic on the planet. Why? Because they earn their money through W-2 salaries, which is the easiest income for the government to track and tax before you even see the money. The rich do not pay the same taxes because they understand that the tax code is not just a list of penalties, it is a rule book of incentives. The government rewards people who provide housing, create jobs, and invest in energy. By funneling their money through legal corporate structures and acquiring appreciating assets, the elite pay a fraction of the tax rate that a middle-class manager pays. Ignorance of the tax code is the most expensive fee you will ever pay in your life. And realizing that the system is rigged against the standard employee can be a terrifying moment. You suddenly understand that everything you were taught in school about money is completely useless. And that is exactly why we built the Orionics app. We created an entire ecosystem designed to give you the financial education the traditional system deliberately left out. Inside the app, you get daily coaching sessions and full-length masterclasses from world-class experts who have actually built multi-million-dollar empires. They're breaking down the exact frameworks they use for investing, scaling businesses, and optimizing their taxes. It is basically a high-level mentorship right in your pocket. And because you are serious enough to be here today, if you download the Organics app and scan the QR code on screen right now, you will get an exclusive 25% off your annual membership. Invest in your own financial literacy, my friend. It is the one asset no one can tax away from you. I'll see you on the inside. All right, moving on. Number 5. They treat their primary residence as their greatest investment. Society tells you that buying a home is the ultimate financial achievement. The middle class pours every ounce of their liquidity into a down payment, taking on a massive 30-year mortgage, and they sit back thinking they are investors. But a house that you live in does not put money in your pocket. It takes money out. It requires maintenance, property taxes, insurance, and repairs. Yes, it might appreciate in value over a few decades, but until you sell it, that equity is completely trapped. The elite build their net worth by acquiring rental properties and commercial real estate that actually spit out cash flow every single month. They don't lock their capital in the roof over their head. They use it to generate passive income. Number 6. They are terrified of all forms of debt. If you grew up in the middle class, you were likely taught that debt is the ultimate evil. And if you are talking about consumer debt, like using a credit card with a 24% interest rate to buy designer clothes, you are absolutely right. But the wealthy use a completely different kind of debt. They use strategic asset-backed leverage. They borrow the bank's money at a low interest rate to purchase an asset that yields a much higher return. The asset pays off the loan, and the investor gets to keep the profit and the equity for practically free. If you run away from all debt, you are forced to build your wealth using only your own limited savings, which is the slowest path imaginable. Number 7. They confuse a high income with true wealth. There are millions of doctors, lawyers, and corporate executives pulling in $300,000 a year who are technically broke. They have a massive salary, but they also have a massive mortgage, the expensive private schools, the luxury car leases, and the country club fees. If your expenses are so high that you would go bankrupt after 3 months of not working, you are not wealthy. You are just a highly paid, highly stressed employee with golden handcuffs. True wealth is not measured by the size of your paycheck. It is measured by how much time you can survive without physically having to work. Wealth is options. Wealth is freedom. Number 8, they take financial advice from people playing a different game. The average person listens to their broke uncle, their cautious coworkers, or their risk-averse parents when it comes to money. But taking advice from someone who is struggling in the exact same system you are trying to escape is a recipe for disaster. If everyone around you believes that investing is risky, that starting a business is dangerous, and that settling for a pension is smart, that becomes your baseline reality. You have to aggressively curate your circle. You need to seek out mentors and peers who have already achieved what you want to achieve. Stop taking directions from people who have never been to your destination. Number 9, they avoid asymmetric risk to stay comfortable. The middle class is obsessed with safety. They want the guaranteed salary, the guaranteed benefits, and the guaranteed predictable path. But safety is an illusion, and playing it safe is the riskiest thing you can do in a rapidly changing economy. The people who break out of the middle class actively hunt for asymmetric risk. This means they look for bets where the downside is strictly capped, but the upside is potentially life-changing. They start a side business, they learn a high-income skill, or they invest in emerging market. Yes, they might fail a few times, but the losses are small, and it only takes one massive win to completely alter their financial trajectory. You cannot achieve an extraordinary life by making ordinary choices. Number 10. They prioritize entertainment over education. When the clock hits 5 p.m., the middle-class worker clocks out mentally. They spend their evenings binge-watching Netflix, scrolling endlessly through social media, and playing video games to decompress from a job they don't even like. The people who end up pulling the strings use those exact same hours to build their escape pod. They are reading books on market trends, they're studying negotiation, they're building prototypes, and they're consuming content that makes them sharper. You cannot spend 4 hours a day numbing your brain and expect to outcompete someone who spends 4 hours a day sharpening theirs. Number 11. They wait for the perfect moment to start. Perfectionism is the ultimate excuse for inaction. The middle class waits for the economy to stabilize. They wait until they have more savings, or they wait for a perfectly crafted business plan before they make a move. And while they are waiting, the ambitious players are out in the arena, failing, adjusting, and capturing the market. Momentum always beats perfection. The elite know that the first version of anything is going to be terrible, and they are completely fine with that. They launch the messy product. They make imperfect investments. They figure it out on the fly because they know that action is the only thing that actually produces data. Number 12. They let their ego trap them in the wrong career. You see this all the time. Someone spends 6 years getting an expensive degree, lands a respectable corporate job, and realizes 2 years in that they absolutely hate it. But because of the sunk cost fallacy, and because their ego is tied to their job title, they refuse to pivot. They spend the next 30 years quietly miserable just so they don't have to admit they made a mistake. The financially intelligent have zero ego when it comes to pivoting. If an industry is dying, if a path is a dead end, they drop it immediately. They do not care about how it looks to their neighbors. They only care about where the leverage is. Number 13. They do not own the infrastructure. The middle class are phenomenal consumers. They buy the subscriptions, they rent the software, they lease the cars, and they pay the interest. They are the engine that powers the global economy. But if you want to get ahead, you have to transition to the other side of the transaction. You have to stop just buying products and start owning the companies that make them. You have to transition from being the person who pays rent to the person who collects it. The system is designed to seamlessly extract your surplus capital. The only way to stop the bleeding is to become an owner. Number 14. They outsource their financial responsibility. It is shocking how many intelligent people have absolutely no idea what is happening in their retirement accounts. They hand their money over to a traditional fund manager, pay ridiculous fees, and just cross their fingers hoping there will be enough left when they turn 65. Nobody is coming to save you, okay? And absolutely nobody cares about your money as much as you do. If you want to break out of the middle class, you have to become financially literate. You have to understand balance sheets, market cycles, and how to read a basic investment prospectus. Delegating is smart, but abdicating your financial responsibility is fatal. Number 15. They mistake comfort for happiness. The ultimate trap of the middle class is that it is just comfortable enough. Your life isn't terrible, you aren't starving, and your couch is pretty soft. But that comfort makes you complacent. It drains the hunger right out of you. True success requires an appetite. It requires a burning desire to see what you are actually capable of achieving before your time on this earth runs out. The people who reach the absolute peak of wealth realize that a comfortable life is often the enemy of an extraordinary one. They are willing to sacrifice years of peace and quiet for the opportunity to build a legacy that will echo for generations. And since you have proven that you have the focus and the discipline to stick with us until the very end, Orionixer, here is your secret bonus. The system relies on you believing that the middle class is normal. The entire socioeconomic machine is built around the assumption that millions of smart, capable people will accept mediocrity. The media, the schools, and the corporate ladders are all structured to keep you compliant, busy, and slightly in debt. The moment you realize that the normal path is an engineered illusion, you take your power back. You stop playing by their rules and you start writing your own. So we want to hear from you. Which of these 15 traps do you think is the hardest for the average person to break out of today? Let us know in the comments below. We read every single one. Thanks for spending some time with us today. Orionixer, keep building, keep growing, and we'll see you back here next time. Until then, take care.